The one eye is the sun god, Ray, which is where we get the word ray, sun rays. It is the sun god, same Mithraic character, and he shows up again and again. This is the Masonic god.
Services. Straighten us out. Well, I hear the Torah, but I'm not Jewish, and nor have I converted to Judaism. I think I'm connecting to something that predates religion.
What's her name?
Marley. Her name was Marley.
It's a beautiful name.
Yeah, we named her after Bob Marley. He had this idea. It was kind of a virologist's idea. He believed that you could cure racism and hate, literally cure it, by injecting music and love into people's lives. One day he was scheduled to perform at a peace rally. Gunmen came to his house and shot him down. 2 days later, he walked out on that stage and sang. Somebody asked him why. He said, the people who are trying to make this world worse are not taking a day off. How can I light up the darkness?
Don't let them fool you. Or even try to school you. Oh no. Don't let them change you. Or even rearrange you.
When you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it. Were you listening to me, Neo? Or were you looking at the woman in the red dress? I was. Look again.
Hollywood itself is a word word is interesting because it's a word that comes from a pagan. Hollywood is the holy wood, and it was the wood that the magical wands were made out of in the pagan sorcery, magic. And these wands were believed that the sorcerers that possessed them could put people into trances and control them. This is part of, I mean, this is symbolic, but it's also important to understand that part of what Hollywood literally does is it puts people into trances. It's a dream state. They call it the dream machine in the United States. Creates fantasies for people. It puts people into these things. Now, one of the things is interesting that in the part of what's done in movie theaters, in darkened rooms where people watch television, is literally a trance state that occurs. So what's called suspended state of disbelief. You enter into a state, you suspend your disbelief and enter into a state whereby you begin to believe what you internally realize is imagination. It's falsehood. Films are magic. It's just magic. You go and you watch these things and people get caught up in them. People cry during films. All this catharsis that takes place in these things. Many of the films, and this is an important element in the control mechanism, is literally allow people to go and have certain type of catharsis as a purging experience, which Aristotle talks about the necessary element. One of the necessary elements of tragedy is to create this cathartic experience. And this is why a lot of the films, especially also news and things like this is why news is very important in this culture. Everybody watches the news, they have this tragic, cathartic experience of watching the tragedies of others and then feeling safe and complacent in their own experience of the suspended state of illusory well-being. So these are very intricate and sophisticated methods. Now I think it's dangerous, although there are elements, there's concerted efforts that take place, there's also a lot of people that have similar worldviews that aren't necessarily working together in concerted efforts.
not supposed to be up here. Nothing at all.
I just wanted to know.
No. Well, you're old enough, I suppose. You should know the story. Okay, here we go. It was 1832. On a night much like this.
was the last surviving signer of the Declaration of Independence. He was also a member of a secret society known as the Masons, and he knew he was dying. He woke up his stable boy in the middle of the night and ordered him to take him to the White House to see Andrew Jackson, because it was urgent that he speak to the president.
Did he talk to him?
No, he never got the chance. The president wasn't there that night. But Charles Carroll had a secret. So he took into his confidence the one person he could. My grandfather's grandfather, Thomas Gates.
What was his secret?
A treasure. A treasure beyond all imagining.
Arabs are the most maligned group in the history of Hollywood. They're portrayed basically as subhumans. Untermenschen, a term used by Nazis to vilify gypsies and Jews. These images have been with us for more than a century. For 30 years, I've looked at how we, particularly when I say we, image makers, have projected Arabs on silver screens. In my latest book, Real Bad Arabs, How Hollywood Vilifies a People, I looked at more than 1,000 films. Films ranging from the earliest, most obscure days of Hollywood to today's biggest blockbuster. And what I tried to do is to make visible what too many of us seem not to see. A dangerously consistent pattern of hateful Arab stereotypes. Stereotypes that rob an entire people of their humanity. All aspects of our culture project the Arab as villain. That is a given. There is no deviation. We have taken a few structured images and repeated them over and over again.
The hostages of the Holy Freedom Party.
Whether one lives in Paducah, Kentucky or Wood River, Illinois, we know basically the same thing.
Listen to the sound of our God.
We know the mythology, namely Hollywood's images of Arabs. Yesteryear's Arab land is today's Arab land. The Arab is one-dimensional caricature, cartoon cutouts used by filmmakers as stock villains and as comic relief. And so over and over we see Arabs in movies portrayed as buffoons, their only purpose being to deliver cheap laughs. You see this in the Joey Heatherton film, The Happy Hooker Goes to Washington.
Every night I was forced to perform unspeakable acts with circumcised dogs.
Oh, dogs are better than sheep. They're cleaner, I know, I've tried both.
The stereotype has become so widespread that it's become invisible to people. And the reason being is that we've all grown up with these images. Just look at television. We now have TV shows telling us that in addition to the Arab terrorists over there, American Arabs over here are also terrorists. Then there's Showtime's Sleeper Cell. Here a sinister network of Islamic groups operates on American street corners. Any homeless man could be part of this network. Even Western-looking Arabs are part of this anti-American conspiracy.
We're at war with America, period. And we're going to win that war by convincing enough Americans through the spread of fear, insecurity, and terror to change their ways. And the best way to teach that lesson is by attacking them where they live, work, and play.
And this paranoia runs deep. So, when innocent Arabs are killed, when they're bombed, maimed, clones of Al-Qaeda and Saddam Hussein are one and the same, and do not merit our sympathy, our understanding. And that's very dangerous.
According to the FBI, hate crimes in America targeting Muslims or people who just appear to be Middle Eastern surged in the aftermath of 9/11.
There is this cloud, you know, with the hate crimes, with the profiling, with being rounded up. Again, I think this illustrates the power of film, that in spite of the reality, in spite of the material that we know to be true, we still embrace the mythology. The mythology is still a part of our psyches. Stereotypes take a long time to wither away. And for many of us, we're comfortable with our prejudices. We don't want to change. We've grown accustomed to this face. When we think of Arabs, what do we see? What images come to mind? Do we see actual people? People who, despite real cultural or geographical differences, do pretty much the same things that we do. When we think of Arab women, what images come to mind? Do we see women who laugh and play and who adore their children? Women who work in the home as well as outside? Would it come as a surprise to know that in many Arab countries, a majority of college students are actually women? What's our immediate image of Arab men? Do we see loving fathers? Men who want to provide for their families? What about Arab teenagers? Do we see them the way you would think about teenagers in other parts of the world? Then there's religion in the Arab world. Do we see it as all-encompassing, dominating everything else? Do we know that even though faith plays a huge role in the Arab world, just as it does here in the United States, that it's also true that much of the Arab world is quite secular? When we think of Arabs and religion, does Christianity come to mind? Do we remember that there are over 20 million Christians in the region who have lived side by side in harmony with Muslims for centuries? To their credit, some filmmakers have shown Arabs and American Arabs in all their complexities. An excellent way to shatter a stereotype is through laughter, through comedy. So we have comedians. Comedians have done this historically. Black comedians, Jewish comedians. So we see Arab comedians doing this, and this is one way to release the tension.
Things on a credit card, true story. Guy behind the counter picked up my credit card, sees the Olive card, looks at me all weird. He's like, "Hey, buddy, what kind of name is that?" I'm like, "Well, sir, it's an Arabic name." He goes, "What does this mean?" So I'm like, "Well, translate it to English. It means peaceful, friendly Arab." But he's not happy because, "Yeah, what Arab country is your family from?" So I think the most peaceful, popular one that he would like. So I'm like, "We're from the same Arab country that Aladdin is from."
To his credit, Michael Moore in Fahrenheit 9/11 in the DVD includes a scene with this comedy coming out.
My name really is Ahmed, and I can't fly anywhere. All you white people have it easy. You guys get to the airport like an hour, 2 hours before your flight. It takes me a month and a half.
Nous vivons dans un monde qu'on peut critiquer, qui est le monde de la dérision. Vous le savez bien, et dans les médias, je dirais le monde de la dérision, on se moque de tout. Le fait que ça se fasse me satisfait. Parce que ça veut dire que nous avons, qu'on est libre. Peu à peu.
Il faut qu'on soit beaucoup plus sage que ça, qu'on rentre pas dans ces provocations. Et c'est pour ça que...
C'est l'autocensure, ça, Jamel. Tu comprends ce que je veux dire? Si on commence à pas faire de dessin pour pas choquer les musulmans,
non,
si on fait...
Pour moi,
c'est de l'autocensure. C'est la liberté d'expression.
Pour moi, la liberté d'expression, la liberté d'expression et le respect font partie, sont mariés ensemble. Moi, je suis pour la liberté d'expression. Mais si je vais blesser une personne, pourquoi blesser la personne?
Non, mais si moi j'ai envie de faire une caricature sur Mahomet ou sur un rabbin ou sur Jésus-Christ, il faut que j'ai le droit de le faire. Tu comprends? C'est ça la France.
Quand tu sais que tu vas blesser 10 millions de personnes, pourquoi tu vas les blesser? Pourquoi?
C'est la liberté, c'est ça.
C'est la liberté de...
tout seul. Vous pensez pas que c'était à vous de vous excuser, non? En disant le sketch n'était pas très drôle, je suis désolé si j'ai blessé des gens, voilà, excusez-moi, voilà, c'est une connerie, c'est mon travail. Mais vous referiez pas le même sketch quand même?
Mais le spectacle que je fais reprend en grande partie les lignes de ce sketch.
Mais il y a un truc que je comprends pas sur cette affaire, c'est qu'à aucun moment vous avez senti le besoin de vous excuser et que vous en avez rajouté. C'est tellement surprenant, c'est tellement inadmissible que j'en suis choqué. Voilà.
Dans un pays où on peut parler, on peut s'exprimer. Et là, pourquoi tout d'un coup, sur un sujet, on ne pourrait pas s'exprimer
vous savez bien pourquoi on ne peut pas s'exprimer.
Pourquoi?
Parce que dans ce pays, on a envoyé pendant la guerre des juifs dans des chambres à gaz et que ça crée un petit problème quand même. Vous voyez ce que je veux dire?
Dans ce pays, on a envoyé pendant 400 ans des centaines de millions de Noirs. Il y a eu 400 ans d'esclavage. Et pourtant, ça n'a pas empêché Michel Leb de faire un sketch qui m'a fait marrer. Il faisait un Noir, et à la fin, il faisait un singe. Et en parlant des narines, en parlant des lunettes. En tout cas, lui, il n'a pas été interdit d'exercer son travail. Il a même eu la Légion d'honneur.
Quelqu'un qui a toute sa famille qui a été exterminée dans un camp de concentration et qui voit quelqu'un à la télé qui dit Israël, vous vous rendez compte? Je sais pas. Non, pas. Il y a des moments où même si on connaît les gens, même si on les a invités, on leur...
Et c'est pour ça que...
C'est l'autocensure, ça, Jamel. Tu comprends ce que je veux dire? Si on commence à pas faire de dessin pour pas choquer les musulmans,
non,
si on fait... C'est de l'autocensure. C'est la fin de la liberté d'expression.
Pour moi, la liberté. Et là, pourquoi tout d'un coup, sur un sujet, on ne pourrait pas s'exprimer?
Vous savez bien pourquoi on ne peut pas s'exprimer.
Pourquoi?
Parce que dans ce pays, on a envoyé pendant la guerre des juifs dans des chambres à gaz et que...
Deux poids, deux mesures. La liberté pour tout le monde.
C'est-à-dire?
La liberté pour tout le monde. Il y a une personne comme Dieudonné qui a fait un rabbin, enfin qui a fait un colon juif, etc. Tous ces DVD ne sont plus dans les pactes. On l'empêche médiatiquement, on ne le voit plus. Alors que lui, c'est un comique. Plusieurs lois qui ont été faites contre l'antisémitisme. Et moi, je fais un appel aujourd'hui de faire une loi contre l'islamophobie.
Don't think you are. Know you are.
to a female attorney I knew, called me up one day and said, one of the Rockefellers would like to meet you. I made a video called Mad as Hell, and he'd seen the video and wanted to meet me. I knew I was running for governor of Nevada. He was a very, very smart man, and we used to talk and share ideas and thoughts, and he's the one who told me 11 months before 9/11 ever happened that there was going to be an event, and out of that event we would invade Afghanistan to run pipelines from the Caspian Sea. We were going to invade Iraq, you know, to take over the oil fields, establish a base in the Middle East, and make it all part of the New World Order. And we'd go after Chavez in Venezuela. And sure enough, later 9/11 happened.
Series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts. The victims were in airplanes or in their offices. Secretaries, businessmen and women, military and federal workers, moms and dads.
Telling me how you're gonna see soldiers looking in caves and people in Afghanistan and Pakistan and all these places, and there's gonna be this war on terror, of which there's no real enemy, and the whole thing is a giant hoax, you know. But it's a way for the government to take over the American people.
He told you it was going to be a hoax.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. There's no question.
And you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to wonder exactly what President George W. Bush knew about the attack, and when he knew it. According to the official White House version, it was at this moment in a Florida classroom that Bush learned the second plane had hit the World Trade Center and that the U.S. was under attack. But here's what George Bush himself said almost 3 months later when asked about September 11th.
I was sitting outside the classroom waiting to go in, and I saw an airplane hit the tower of a TV. You know, the TV was obviously on, and I used to fly myself, and I said, well, there's one terrible pilot. And I said it must have been a horrible accident. But I was whisked off there and didn't have much time to think about it.
Now wait a minute. George Bush was told about the second plane while he was inside the classroom. So you just heard him describe seeing the first plane crash on television that day. But that's impossible. No one saw the first plane crash on TV on September the 11th because the videotape of it didn't surface until the next day.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order.
The people who are trying to make this world worse are not taking a day off.
Let us never tolerate outrageous conspiracy theories concerning the attacks of September the 11th. Malicious lies that attempt to shift the blame away from the terrorists themselves, away from the guilty. Conspiracy theories, conspiracy theories, conspiracy theories, conspiracy theories. Do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States. The office of President of the United States. And will to the best of my ability. And will to the best of my ability. Preserve, protect, and defend. Preserve, protect, and defend. The Constitution of the United States. The Constitution of the United States. So help me God. So help me God. Congratulations.
You can't believe how many times I've talked. But it still comes down, my son was murdered. And I haven't gotten the answers that I want. And I'm bitter. And I'm angry. So that's why it makes it very difficult. It's tough, like, you know, I talk to so many people, and so many people are rational, and they really have great answers. And this is a fault of mine. And one of the positive things is I bring passion to this. But one of the faults is I want my answers now, immediately, and I want the perpetrators of the murder of my son. And I've spent 6 years going to every commission hearing, talking to so many people. And there's simple questions, just simple questions that the media won't talk about. My God, if I can't have a rational conversation with my neighbor about Tower 7 coming down, they look at me and say, what, are you nuts? These are my neighbors. It's tough to get 5-minute conversation with them. That's insane. Absolutely insane. And this list goes on and on and on and on. And I've gone my entire life believing that what our government does is right. And I've always believed that. And she's, 57, 58 years old now. And she says, that's the first time I've looked at our government and said, geez, maybe everything isn't true.
August 2nd, 1990, Saddam Hussein's forces crashed through the defences of oil-rich Kuwait in fear of an Iraqi invasion into Saudi Arabia. The United States and her coalition allies poured into the Arabian Peninsula to form a deterrent that would be known as Desert Shield. The result was a series of diplomatic talks, negotiations and counter-negotiations that rapidly declined into a no-hope situation.
Just one comment. Clearly I've never been there, but this feels like we're in the center of hell. There continue to be these flashes of light often. Whoa! Holy cow!
The conflict was witnessed by millions through the eye of CNN and the BBC, showing propaganda of the systematic eradication of Saddam's forces by a coalition far superior in technological, political and economic power. However, what was little known was that from the outset the war was engineered, controlled and manipulated by an elite group. A group which had created the illusion of a man with power at the head of a million-strong army on the verge of going nuclear. A man who had gained control over 1/5 of the world's oil overnight. However, in reality he was merely a pawn, in amongst many pawns. Just a puppet in a grand master plan, with the Gulf War as a well-orchestrated stepping stone.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order.
America will not impose our own style of government on the unwilling. Our goal instead is to help others find their own voice.
He should have been killed a long time. By whom? By anyone.
Se va preso porque es un golpe de Estado.
Se destituyen de sus cargos ilegítimamente ocupados al presidente y demás magistrados del Tribunal Supremo de Justicia.
Una dictadura, queremos a Chávez. Chávez,
Me llevaron. Pensé que iba a morir.
Start accepting the existence of aliens and UFOs. Tell you right now that 99% of every UFO sighting that has ever taken place has actually not been an unidentified flying object, because this has always been military technologies. Another thing I'd like to point out is surveys and questionnaires. You know, we get surveys and questionnaires all the time, sent out by the state or by the government or by our rulers and our officials and so on and so forth. Do you really think that these ruling powers care about what you think? Do you really think that they're waiting to ask you and receive your answer before making a decision? What happens with these questionnaires is that they are released. For example, what country do you think the US should attack next? And if it yields back results like 70% of the US population believe Iran is the next country that should be attacked, this is actually a study conducted for the effectiveness of the media propaganda that they are using. So when they get such results, they look at it and they be like, all right, amazing. Our media propaganda is working. We are purposely trying to manipulate people to think that Iran should be the next one, and check out the survey results. We're doing a great job in propaganda. That's what it's all about. And if the results come back and they aren't up to par, so let's say 20% want war with Iran and 80% want actual peace, they say, okay, so now we have to go and rework our media propaganda and make it more effective so these percentages change. Why am I saying this? Because of the UFO phenomenon. Since the 60s, the amount of people who believe in extraterrestrials have skyrocketed. And they're only increasing day by day in our modern world. This only confirms the success and the plans that are taking place to first manipulate you to believe in UFOs, and second, to conduct a UFO attack that is going to force the whole world to unite to fight off this enemy and accept the New World Order.
A former Canadian government official is warning we may be on the verge of intergalactic war, saying, quote, the Bush administration has finally agreed to let the military build a forward base on the moon, which will put them in a better position to keep track of the comings and goings of visitors from space, and to shoot at them if they so decide.
I was introduced to the late Dr. Wernher von Braun in the U.S., the father of rocketry. In my first meeting with him, during that first 3.5 hours, he said to me, Carol, you will stop the weaponization of space, because there is a lie being told to everyone that the weaponization of space is now first being based upon the evil empire, the Russians. There are many enemies, he said, against whom we're going to build this space-based weapon system. The first of whom was the Russians, which was existing at that time. Then there would be terrorists. Then there would be third world countries. Now we call them rogue nations or nations of concern. Then there would be asteroids. And then he would repeat to me over and over, and the last card, the last card, the last card would be the extraterrestrial threat. As a military strategist, as a person who worked on the MX missile, which I did later, he said, you will find that there is going to be a spin to find some enemy against whom we have to build space-based weapons, and now we should expect the spin. And that's the formula, except that it's all based on a lie.
A supersonic saucer. Called the Silver Bug, it was truly revolutionary. The plans show in detail a multi-jet engine craft that boasted amazing maneuverability and speed. It's an intriguing thought that this concept may tie in with the work of the German scientists who brought saucer technology to the US at the close of the Second World War.
What was needed were certain cover stories. What do you do when people are spotting aircraft and then telling reporters that they've seen something very unusual flying out of an airbase in Nevada? And frankly, this was the origin of a lot of the sightings that took place in the mid-50s, 1954, 55, 56, of unidentified flying objects, the UFOs. So the CIA was involved in encouraging people to believe that, yes, they saw UFOs, and the CIA and the military tried to be very helpful to reporters to get these stories out, to divert the attention of the country, particularly the people in this region, about what they had actually seen.
Mexican Air Force pilots capturing on videotape what are said to be 11, count them, 11 UFOs.
The Mexican Air Force has released a video that some of you are going to find difficult to believe. A journalist says it shows images of UFOs tracking a Mexican military plane.
So what's the truth about UFOs? The story of successive attempts to develop radically new forms of flight. conducted under the strictest secrecy, is inextricably bound up with our relationship with UFOs over the last 60 years. Whether it's Allied pilots buzzed by strange balls of fire in 1942, or the Roswell incident 5 years later, there is a strong case to be made that secret military technology offers a convincing explanation for many UFO stories.
Anytime the government has secrets that they can keep from us, they can manipulate us by those secrets. In essence, they still remain 25 years at least ahead of us in technology, information, and knowledge, and secrets, and they are using them against us. I heard over the years many times over that the plan to usher in the New World Order would be to make all the people in this country and around the world feel totally helpless to prevent the New World Order from occurring, this world dominance plan, by saying that we had been invaded by aliens, so that we would say, oh please UN, come in and help us all. So bear in mind that there is a plan, orchestration, to get people to be submissive through the secret technology and information that they're keeping from you under the blanket of a so-called National Security Act.
Some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
So what about the other 1% of the UFO phenomenon? Has there ever been legitimate sightings? As promised, we're going to cover this 1% in a future episode. But I'll share with you something a wise man once shared with me. Before we should start focusing on dealing with problems outside our world, we should first focus on solving the problems within our world. And before you can start solving problems within your world, you first have to solve problems within yourself and within your surrounding environment of family and friends. So basically what I'm trying to say is that we have priorities that we need to focus on first and foremost so we can successfully build our lives and our minds. Now it's no secret that the difference between what the government knows about UFOs and aliens and what is shared or released to the public is extremely enormous. And unfortunately, governments and several organizations on Earth are taking advantage of the UFO phenomenon to achieve worldly agendas.
So why do we see particle beams, huge ones, firing at things that are, you were saying 200,000 Gs?
Yep.
I mean, go over that.
Well, because I think it's part of a test for if there are bad guys out there. Or maybe they're doing preparations for faction. We may be looking at more than one faction. Remember, these groups tend to fragment. They fractally fragment so that you have wars within wars within wars. You know.
But why would NASA release that footage?
Well, remember, you've got all the good guys in NASA, and then you've got a few who are not good guys. The good guys don't know that there's something to keep secret. They, remember, the lie's different at every level. They believe the lies they've been told. So when you set up a structure, an institution, which is supposed to be open and above board and is supposed to present live TV of the shuttle mission, they present live TV. Now, the controllers can't say, oh, well, you can broadcast this, but you can't broadcast that. Because the honest guys will then say,
sure,
well, why can't we broadcast
that? So people always say if this was happening, it would come out, and it is coming out. Well, I mean, I agree with you. When you've got the Catholic Church saying we need to love the aliens, they're our brothers, when you've got every major denomination saying it, when you've got all the movies, and you've got, you know, in the 80s, huge programs at the Olympics with aliens landing, you know, fake aliens, and you've got huge things the size of 3 football fields floating over Dallas, and stuff all over the place. Something's going on, and then I read government documents about fake extraterrestrial landings. You know, any of this. Why? I mean, you believe it's fake.
Remember Operation Northwoods?
Yes.
Okay. Or we can go to the, you know, September 11th. Governments do huge, big things to sway populations at key nodal points in history.
They love hoaxes.
Yeah, well, it's manufactured history is what it is. We are building, I mean, all my UFO friends, I need to shake them because they're so, frankly, they're extremely naive, Alex. They really believe we're building toward disclosure. I believe we're building toward a mass, carefully manufactured, fake event where ETs, who are really humans, who are really part of this secret clique, who are probably Nazis, you know, who have developed or perfected their technology from World War II, which is why you've got to get, you know, Joseph on. They are going to basically fake out the world. And there's an incredible window on the Nazi black ops programs, the compartmentalized, incredible high technology efforts that were being funded by the Nazi war machine, particularly toward the end of the war, in a desperate effort to win the war, and they fastened their hopes on several key technologies, some of which appear to be the control of gravity itself, which again is a separate piece of data from my work, which came at this from a hyperdimensional physics perspective.
I mean, we know there's a lot of suppressed technology. I mean, 20 years after the B-2 bomber was already in service, they declassify it. So we have a lot of cases of that. We know there's a whole shadow government. Many people...
This is technology and physics, Alex, that would make anything you think you know like a candle flame compared to a hydrogen bomb. This is a physics that literally allows you to rearrange time.
But I mean, imagine, you've got all these compartments in these pyramids within pyramids of compartmentalization. That's why that's the New World Order symbol. And I mean, we don't know what they've got because they are so secret. We know they lie so much. We just know it's advanced. Mainline scientists say they're 30 years advanced. So Richard C. Hoagland, what I'm saying to you is, I'm entertaining what you're saying. I respect you. I think you're a great guy. My only issue is, like you said, dealing with what we know they could be up to.
The fact, Alex, we have done experiments. We have our own data. We have experiments now from the Soviet Union. 30, 40 years when the Iron Curtain came down, you know, when Glasnost finally prevailed, a huge amount of stuff was declassified from the KGB as well. And we now have put this data together. We not only know what the physics is, we know what it can do, we know what it's based on, we know how to make it work. We've seen in our own experiments ample evidence. We've seen experiments across the American landscape and even in Europe that vindicate various parts of this. And the latest thing I'm working on, it looks like von Braun himself was deeply involved in some of this early physics experimentation, but they're keeping all the good stuff for themselves. The reason is that if we got access to the good stuff, If we got access to the technology, the energy, you know, we wouldn't be worried about $4, $5 a gallon gas or $10 a gallon gas. We would live like people are supposed to live, all 6 billion of us who could live lightly on the earth, Alex, with this technology.
And live longer, and live longer.
Absolutely, and better, and, you know, you could live to 200-300 and have the virility of your 20s and 30s. There's extraordinary medical breakthroughs, there's extraordinary physics breakthroughs, technology breakthroughs, energy. It's all been kept away.
Think about it. We're already on a planet hurtling through space, all these wonders around you, and you've been taught it's bizarre to question, and that's because there's so many kooks in the alternative movement who do talk about ridiculous, you know, Hollywood-style green men, instead of really looking at the shadow government and all these crazy secret societies that are admittedly running NASA and the shadow government.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, during this talk that I'm going to give you, I'm going to explain to you the history of this phenomenon, who the secret government really is, and I will name them by name, beginning group, the study group. I will tell you who they are today. I'm going to tell you what this is all about. I'm going to tell you who's selling drugs to your children, and I'm going to tell you why the United States government is afraid for you to find out what the truth is regarding UFOs.
And it turns out that even though she remembered that she'd been part of the team to debrief the astronauts, she couldn't remember a thing that they said. She couldn't remember why she no longer was working with NASA. She couldn't remember. In other words, her memory lapses were enormous, and I don't think they were feigned, because we now found the same pattern in all the flight crews. Because the awful truth, Alex, is they have been brainwashed. They have been mind controlled. They have had a technology, a very sophisticated technology, which took away the real missions that they experienced.
Sorry.
Hey guys, so you have just completed episode 20 of The Arrivals, which means now you're halfway through the series. I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of myself and Achernahr to really thank all the viewers and all the supporters. It's been a lot of loyal following to this series, and to this we have to thank you guys. Each video of The Arrivals has averaged over 12 honors, and this is a great accomplishment and something really inspiring for us, because this series deals with a lot of deep and controversial issues. So we really appreciate the following we have received. We thank each and every one of you guys. I'd like to especially thank the people that have dedicated their time to upload the series on their pages or dedicate other pages on the internet for this series. to do so far is basically remove the blindfolds that have been placed over your eyes with the first 20 episodes. So before you accept and receive what is yet to come, it was a very important step to open and free your mind. Now that you can see, and now that you can understand what's going on, you're going to be able to accept what is yet to come. So, on behalf of myself, Noreagaaa, and Achernahr, Assalamu alaikum, or may peace be with you. Hope you enjoy the rest of the series.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.
Nazis chose the symbol. This symbol was not invented by them. This symbol deals with the sun.